In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro met with his Colombian counterpart Gustavo Petro for the second time 1 week before the reopening of all border crossings. In Honduras, the government extended the state of exception until February 20th to address gang violence. And in Russia, the government announced that its agro-industrial sector adapted to U.S. sanctions and is now exporting 25% more food to a total of 150 industries. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, and we do so in Venezuela. Colombian President Gustavo Petro arrived to the Miraflores Palace for a work meeting with President Nicolas Maduro. This is Petro's second official visit to the nation following the re-establishment of diplomatic relations between both nations. The work meeting aims to continue strengthening the common and cooperation agenda. The extraordinary bilateral meeting comes 6 days after the reopening of the border for vehicle transit, an important step forward in both heads of state's objective for regional integration. During the meeting, both presidents assessed the commitments made between both governments and their implementation. Said work helps guarantee peace and stability in the common border and directly benefits the Venezuelan and Colombian people. Let's review the most outstanding moments in the process of reunion between these two countries.
Colombia in August 2022, and from Bolivar Square, Gustavo Petro stated his commitment to re-establish relations with Venezuela, ties severely damaged under his predecessor, Iván Duque. The same month, both governments appointed ambassadors and the respective parliament endorsed both officials. September marks a new step on the road to reunion with the reopening of the Simón Bolívar International Bridge after 7 years of closure. Both governments described this moment as historical. After several months of negotiations between high-level teams, in November 2022, Presidents Gustavo Petro and Nicolas Maduro signed a joint agreement to consolidate bilateral relations. On November the 1st, Gustavo Petro made his first official visit to Caracas in what was described as a fraternal and productive meeting by both parties. On November the 7th, the first commercial flights between Caracas and Bogota began, and then, on January the 1st, 2023, the Atanasio Girardot International Bridge, formerly known as Las Tienditas, was reopened with the presence of high officials and several cultural activities, which represented the complete normalization of the binational transit.
Bolivian social organizations declare emergency and permanent mobilization in 9 departments of the country, as stated in a joint press conference with the president of the plurinational state, Luis Arce. The Bolivian Workers' Center and the Unity Pact, after ratifying their full support to government, declared their emergency following the most recent events in Santa Cruz. When describing the events as attempts of destabilization and coup d'etat, they also highlighted the ideological and political maturity of their leaders. Juan Carlos Huarachi, Executive Secretary of the Bolivian Central Labor Union, commented on the misrepresentation of the events that occur in the east of the country. On Saturday, a devastating collision occurred between 2 trains of Line 3 of Mexico City's subway service. Emergency services arrived in the area immediately to help the people on board. In a Twitter publication, the subway administration shared that they are out of service for as long as authorities conduct their investigations. Mexico City's head of government, Claudia Sheinbaum, also shared a message on Twitter informing about the accident and the urgency with which the main authorities of the city arrived at the collision scene. On Friday, the Honduran government announced that the state of exception will last 45 more days to extend the security forces' anti-gun operations. According to the executive measure, the operations have the purpose of keeping peace and security and preventing extortions, murders, robberies, drug trafficking, and kidnappings. Nonetheless, human rights organizations argue that the implementation of these operations hinders some constitutional rights. The National Police reports several surveillance and control actions in various areas. The municipalities of Cortés and Francisco Morazán, the Sur Valley, and the capital city of Tegucigalpa are some of the most significant ones. The PCM 01-2023 directive will be enforced until next February 20th. Haiti will begin receiving special aid from the International Monetary Fund to alleviate food crisis. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Henry, although without specifying whether the country would make any kind of commitment to the fund. Under the Food Shock Window program, the Caribbean country will begin to receive the resources next week. The IMF webpage explains that this program grants financial support for 1 year exclusively to solve the food emergency. Ukraine is another beneficiary of the program, although Henry assured that Haiti will be the first to receive it. After 4 days and 15 votes amid strong tensions with members of his own party, Republican Kevin McCarthy finally became President of the United States Congress. The decision was reached in the early hours of Saturday morning, and although he fell 2 votes short of the votes needed to be elected, the abstention of 6 congressmen made it possible to reduce the necessary threshold and put an end to the discussion. Before the decision, there were clashes among congressmen promoted by supporters of former President Donald Trump, who tried to prevent the vote. The United Nations Refugee Agency condemned the recent United States immigration program as not conforming to international norms. The agency spokesman, Boris Sheshirkov, stated that while UNHCR applauded the opening of new and safe ways for some countries to enter the United States, these rules should not prevent migrants from exercising their fundamental human rights to seek safety. In this regard, he made reference to the recent border measures promoted by the Biden administration. The official explained that these measures deny migrants the possibility of requesting asylum in the United States if they cross from Mexico without permission, a fact that he said violates the norms of refugee law. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In the United States, fertilizer prices have fallen to their lowest level in 19 months after reaching record highs in 2022 as gas costs and farmer demand decline. Based on financial statistics, the index of this market declined by 4% this Friday, equivalent to $672,000 per short ton, the lowest number registered since June 2021, according to specialists, as a consequence of the Ukrainian crisis. According to specialists, also, the fertilizer industry is currently weak because farmers are not buying it, as its main commodity, natural gas, is steadily declining on the international market. Likewise, economists said lower prices could bring relief to farmers by allowing them to buy tons of produce and raise production levels for the next few months. In Europe, a local study reveals that 1 out of every 4 people face difficulties in heating their homes. According to the results of the survey named Europe Project, at least 26% of the population, representing approximately 100 million people, cannot adequately heat their homes, being Greece the most affected by this problem. 1 out of 4 interviewed stated that they were unable to pay their heating bill at least once during the year 2022 due to the inflationary crisis and the increase in commodities. The survey also reported that heating bills have become much less affordable than they were in 2021, while also reiterating that nations such as Portugal and France are affected by 34%, while Finland, Hungary, Austria, and Denmark register around 15%. The United Kingdom is experiencing another day of strikes in the worst wave of demonstration the country has seen in decades. The government continues to reject the workers' demands. Although Prime Minister Rishi Sunak met today with health workers who are also on strike, it is the rail workers' crisis that is having the greatest impact on the country. The coordinated strikes involve thousands of public sector workers, including teachers, firefighters, and immigration service workers. British experts say it is the worst period of social protest since 1980, which, coupled with double-digit inflation, is having a major impact on the economy and the quality of life of the population. On Saturday, the Greek government announced the building of a fence in the northwest of the country, all along the land border with Turkey. According to local media, the authorities declared that the construction of the first 45 kilometers of the border fence will start immediately with an estimated budget of 100 million euros. The government also stated the decision means to end the illegal migration of Turkish citizens into Greek territory. It also represents a response to alleged provocations by Ankara towards Athens at the diplomatic and territorial level. Also, the Greek border authorities assured that in 2022 they prevented at least 256,000 migrants from illegally entering the country, and the national police detained more than 1,300 irregular people transporters coming from Turkey. Russia, despite difficulties due to sanctions, increased agri-food industry exports to friendly countries by 25%, refocusing its vision on 2022. As of March 2022, the Russian government exports food to 150 nations, adding dozens of names to its list of friendly countries such as Australia, Canada, South Korea, United States and Japan, along with members of the European Union and Ukraine. Meanwhile, Agriculture Ministry indicated at the end of November that the value of agri-food exports at the end of 2022 would be close to $400 billion, adding that the commercial exchange continues, but it is not possible to speak of a growing sales market for Russian foodstuffs. In Eurasia, the Russian army respects the unilateral Christmas truce while attacks by Ukrainian forces continue. According to the authorities of the Russian Defense Ministry, during the last 24 hours, the Ukrainian troops continued their bombing of several residential localities in the Donetsk region. The Defense Ministry assured that the Ukrainian forces suffered more than 100 casualties in unsuccessful attacks on several Russian positions in the Donetsk area and in the Kharkov region as a result of the return fire. In spite of this, he assured that the ceasefire regime decreed by President Vladimir Putin will be maintained until midnight this Saturday. This truce was declared unilaterally by Russia following a call by the head of the Orthodox Church in Russia, Patriarch Kirill of Moscow, allowing believers to visit the churches. According to its tradition, Orthodox Christians around the world celebrate Jesus' birth this Saturday, January 7th. Orthodox Christmas is celebrated in several countries in Eurasia, including Belarus, Bulgaria, Israel, Kazakhstan, Moldova, Russia, Serbia, Turkey, and Ukraine, as well as in several countries in Africa, including Ethiopia and Egypt. During January 6, followers attended the religious events of the Holy Night and also participated in the traditional Holy Night fasting and the elaboration of the 12 dishes, each one representing one of the 12 apostles who accompanied Jesus Christ. This January 7, the followers attend masses to celebrate the birth of the one who, according to tradition, would be the world's savior. And we have more news coming up after a final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back From the South. On Friday, Uruguayan National Fire Department declared extinguished the forest fire near the town of Algorta in the department of Rio Negro. The department issued this declaration after firefighters and authorities of the Notorial Fund had thoroughly examined the area and observed no persistent fire hazard indicator in an 8-hour period. However, many fire departments in the metropolitan areas such as Colón, Melilla, Pando, and Toledo Chico reported 4 more fires likely to spread, which they are working to extinguish. According to authorities, these fires usually occur this time of the year due to high temperatures and lack of rainfall. They have also confirmed they possess every means necessary to extinguish those fires. In the United States, the National Weather Service predicted that the state of California could experience heavy snowfall and flooding as several hurricanes cross the Pacific Ocean. The Weather Service said that the heavy precipitation that hit Northern California this Saturday morning will strengthen overnight, and the storm is likely to bring additional precipitation to the area. Also, heavy snowfall is forecast to hit the mountainous portions of the interior of the state early Sunday morning, and the weather event is expected to extend into Monday. The storm that mainly affects the state of California started this Thursday and has left thousands of people without power and at least 2 dead. In Australia, the governor declared a state of emergency in the western regions of the country after heavy rains. The Prime Minister of the Oceanic nation, Anthony Albanese, stated that this declaration raised unprecedented flooding in the western region. These floods will have a dramatic impact in the west. The emergency services have declared the situation as the most catastrophic ever suffered by the Kimberley region with flooded rivers. The Kimberley region has an extension of land larger than many European nations but has less than 40,000 inhabitants. So far, no deaths or losses have been registered in this area of the country. Ivorian citizens welcomed the news of the presidential pardon of 49 soldiers detained in Mali, formerly sentenced to 20 years in prison and death, as joy for everyone. The soldiers were on a mission, not for anyone but for the country and for other international organizations, and their return and release brings joy for everyone. This pardon is said to keep the peace between neighboring countries and aid in calming the unrest in the region. Relations between ECOWAS and Mali had already been strained before the arrest. The junta has so far resisted West African pressure and sanctions and remained in power, pledging to step down in February 2024. Bamako also wanted Ivory Coast to hand over people who had been on its territory since 2013, but who are wanted in Mali, they say. Ivory Coast rejected both demands and was prepared for extended negotiations to free the men. On Saturday, January 7, the Senegalese government reported an increase in fuel and electricity prices. According to the announcement, the cost of diesel and petrol will be increased by 100 CFA francs, while electricity will undergo a variation by tranches and will not affect users who consume less than 150 kilowatts per hour every 2 months. It was also learned that the increase will not affect gas cylinders or paraffin, and special treatment will also be given to transporters in this way. The price increase responds to the worldwide growth of hydrocarbon costs as a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic and the current armed conflict in Ukraine. On Friday, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, M23 rebels handed over a strategic base of the Congolese army. East African regional forces took control of the Honduran Govt military base after it was handed over by M23 rebels who held the facility for 2 months. The rebels labeled the gesture as a symbol of peace in reference to a November summit in Angola where Rwanda and DRC demanded a cessation of M23 hostilities as well as their withdrawal. On the other hand, the Congolese army has called the withdrawals a force, and considering that despite having retired from some strategic locations, they have occupied more territory. Thus, the resurgence of the M23 has meant a step back in the relations between the DRC and Rwanda. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.